Hey, what's up everyone? This is going to be a quick installation guide for the FC330. What you see here on screen is everything's laid out, and first we're going to start with the 3D printed in the barrel part. So we're going to take the orange part. This is going to hold in the barrel later on. We're going to need 4 set screws, the smaller ones. Once you have done that, you'll grab your 1.5mm Allen wrench or hex key, and you're going to screw in the set screws to make them flush with the barrel holder. As you can see, it's flush, and you proceed with the other 3. And once you've done that, we're going to proceed with the other 2 3D printed parts. This is going to be part of the dart gate assembly. What you will see inside these parts are 2 cutouts for, in this case, 2 of the smaller nuts. I know this happens off screen because it's quite finicky, but you will need to insert the nuts into the cutouts. And you can see me here struggling a little bit in order to get it done. I'm trying to show it to you here, but camera is not in focus. Apologies for that. As for the other part, you can see here there's also 2 cutouts, a little bit more visible, for 2 nuts. So that's already the first part done. Right now we're going to grab the inner aluminum tube. We're going to attach the plunger rod and the barrel holder for the inside. We're going to need again a couple of set screws. It's going to be 6 in total, 3 for each part. So you'll grab your plunger rod. You're going to attach the small O-ring to the back side. Now the big one to the front. It's all quite self-explanatory. And then what you will see here is that you will see the word up, and the upper part needs to be on that side of the in the barrel. You're going to grab the set screws. We're going to attach them on the bottom, so the opposite of where the up word is printed. and then 2 on the sides. What you also probably notice is that the upper hole will not have a, let's say, corresponding hole in the 3D printed part. Makes to ensure that you don't insert the set screw in the wrong position. Also make sure that all the set screws are flush with the aluminum tube. As you can see, this is not good. Just a little bit tighter. And now it's good. And that's the last set screw for this part. So again, don't put in the set screw on the top. Nice and flush. Okay. Now we'll move on to the plunger rod. There's one big hole that you see on the top. It's only on one side of the plunger rod. And that needs to be on the top. So instead of the set screws being on the bottom and on the sides, for this part it's going to be on the top and on the sides. Keep that in mind. As a side note, this kit also includes some spare parts that you will see on screen. Also, the same goes for the screws. AK Blastamod always makes sure to provide some extra screws, but it can be a bit confusing when you're just first installing it. So that's why we made this video. Okay, nice and flush, and that's done for this part. Again, the set screws go on the top and on the sides, and for the other part on the bottom and on the sides. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to take our 2.5 millimeter wrench, and we're going to assemble the pusher. So you'll take one of the bigger nuts, put it in there. And what you need to do is you need to make sure, you need to measure, let's say, the screw, because as you can see, the plastic part that goes over the screw does not need to be tightened fully. So make sure you grab a wrench, because it's quite tight. And I'm using a screwdriver here, but you can also use your Allen wrench. It just takes a bit more muscles. So I'm trying to eyeball it. Let's see to see how far I have to go. Now, as you can see, not far enough. I think this is good. Maybe a little bit more. But I'll do this by hand. Have a bit more precision. And now it's done. So right now you go from the back, install the screw. Again, you can use your Allen wrench here, but I think I'm going to use my screwdriver. No, it's my Allen wrench. This is to ensure that the screw does not stick out from the front, which can damage the internal parts. So that's good. From your bag of O-rings, you will grab your the thick silicone ring and apply that to the front. This will help with absorbing the impact once you start shooting your darts. Make sure it's aligned. And this is going to be the catch mechanism. We'll need 2 pins here. The smaller spring, and what you don't see here on the video, but what is optional, is you can add some lubrication later on with installing. The catch, make sure that the diagonal part is facing to the front, so that's facing you. Install the spring, then the catch, and what you need to do now, and it's going to be quite finicky as well. It's going to install the pins in the hole, and it took me some time because of the printing tolerances. So you might have to put quite some pressure. So I'm using the back of my tweezers to push it in. As you can see, I'm struggling a little bit. But that's okay. In the end, we always get there. So as I'm struggling to install the pins, I think this is a good moment to mention that this is our first installation guide. If you have any tips, comments, or remarks, please let us know in the comments, and we'll try to improve the quality of videos. Now, as you can see, I managed in the end. Then we'll attach the other part of the catch mechanism. This is going to be holding the spring later on. As you can see, you need quite some downward pressure in order to make sure everything is aligned. Now, and this is the trigger mechanism. We're going to use two of the longest screws, and then for this one you need the sticker spring. So there's a cutout in the orange part which aligns perfectly with the trigger, and then you will take one of the black screws and use a screwdriver for this. I believe this is just a Phillips screw. Then one of the nuts, the smaller nuts, goes in the cutout over there. And then you will have a long screw which will be attached within, packaged within your spring. And what the little orange part is on the back, that's going to initiate the trigger release, or the catch. So insert the trigger there's a cutout for the spring over there, and then you can use the screw to attach it to the nut. And later on with calibrating we will check. Now is check if it's smooth or not. You can put some grease over there as well. Now going back to the inner tube, I like to use super loop, but you can also use the included silicone loop. Take some and grease in your O-rings. That goes for both the big one over there and the smaller one in the back. Okay. Then we're going to take the barrel and the outer aluminum shell. And what we'll need to do is we need to loop in the back of the shell, because there the plunger rod is going to be in there, or the pusher, sorry, with the spring, and we just need to make sure that everything is looped up inside. And the barrel gives you the ability to reach deeper inside the barrel. You can see is I use a lot of loop, which is a little bit wasteful, so I'll try to take that into consideration for the future. Now clean up your barrel, and then put some more lube on your finger, and then just to make sure that everything on the end of the outer shell is also looped in, because that will help when installing the inner aluminum shell with the O-rings. So we'll take the inner aluminum shelf. Be careful here. So for the nuts that are in, so that's why I'm doing it from the bottom to the top, and we'll need to slide up over there. Same goes for the dart gate. I will keep that over there. Okay. Just make sure, because the nuts do tend to fall out. That's why I'm doing it this way. Now we have the barrel. As you can see, it's chamfered on the inside. Make sure that's on the inside of the inner aluminum shell. This helps with dart feeding, makes to avoid that the darts get stuck. As you can see here, I'm trying to push it in all the way. Apologies that this happens off screen, but I need to add some pressure. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to insert the inner aluminum shell to the in the outer, from the back to the front. Be careful that you don't pinch your O-ring, so be mindful of that. You do need some force here, but don't overdo it. Just to make sure that the O-ring is not pinched. You see here it goes well. what you'll need to do is you see holes that need to be aligned with the 3D printed parts, the pink parts. So I'm trying to push it all the way to the front. You see that hole needs to align with that hole, so I'm a little bit too far. I'm going to try to align it. As you can see, due to the O-ring, you need to apply some pressure. As you can see, the barrel gets a little bit greasy because of the loop. And I'm just trying to align it here. And once it's aligned, what we're going to do, and that's what you also see, is we're going to use some set screws in those holes to fix the inner tube in position. As you can see, it's aligned now, the back part at least. I'm trying to grab some of the set screws. I believe there are 3 in total per part. So that's the back and the front. So the top one is to make sure it's aligned with the shell. The other ones, make sure you push them in or you screw them in all the way, because that's why the nuts are there. Now we're going to align the front. And again, we'll need 3 set screws. What you will see here is that one of the set screws, it doesn't fit inside the 1.5mm Allen wrench. So later on I will use a little bit smaller one, I think a 1.2 or 1.3 one. You can see some of the metal was bent inwards. So as you can see, a little bit smaller one works fine, and then I will switch over to the 1.5mm one again. I believe. And this is this was the hardest part of the build. Trying to clean up all the grease. Now what we're going to do is have the barrel holder. And we're going to, again you will see here print part with the word up, and make sure that's facing up to the blaster. This is happening off screen, but I'm just I need to apply some pressure, as you can see. And as you can see, the holes, they align. And what you can do here is also immediately attach the yellow sleeve, because that's why we have the cutout. It's like a twist-on mechanism. Just looking for my Allen wrench, and now we're going to tighten it to secure the barrel in place as well. Always do it opposite of the ones you're screwing, so top and bottom, left and right, to avoid misaligning the barrel or pushing the barrel to one side or the other. But the print tolerances are quite tight, so this is just an extra measure. And that's the top of the blaster. Again, here you can twist this part on if you want to. It's not necessary, because what we're going to be using is the shroud later on. What we're going to do now, we're going to take the rear grip or the trigger assembly, and we're going to align it with the 4 holes. And that's why I mentioned earlier to fully seat the set screws for the inside, because the trigger assembly utilizes the same screw holes. And that's why I mentioned it earlier, because here I realized now that I had to do that. Learn from my mistakes. Now we're taking, and for these screws, as you can see, there are, or maybe not see, there are 3 different lengths. The 10mm, the 8mm and the 4mm. The 4 ones I already separated, but the 10 and 8 I didn't realize earlier were not separated. So for these you need to make sure that you use the 10mm ones. And here I'm trying to be fancy and half install them already. But I noticed is that you cannot see if the holes are aligned or not. As you can see, or maybe not see, I'm strung a little bit off screen, but as you will see here is that I have a little bit troubles with aligning it with the screw. And I think it's seating now. Also, if you have, I suggest using some red Loctite, because it's not expected that you have to remove this part again. And also don't fully screw in the screws. Do it halfway, all of them, and then just to make sure that everything is aligned, and then you can proceed with tightening all the screws. So I'm trying to find a good position in order to do it neatly in front of the camera and align the hole at the same time. The overall build quality of this blaster is really nice. It's very sturdy. Just my personal opinion though is that the overall build experience of this blaster is not as great as the C330, the little brother of this blaster. But that's okay. I mean, in the end what matters is if the blaster works and shoots the expected FPS. As I realize here now, the hole was not fully aligned, so I'm trying to push it into position. Even more reason, as you can see here as well, I'm loosening one of the other screws just to make sure that I can align it properly. Now I'm tightening all the other screws. Now we're going to take the barrel sleeve and we're going to align it. There are quite some screw holes here, but what I've seen here is that overall you only need two, which are the very small ones, the 4mm ones. Then we take the top Picatinny rail, and that one uses 8mm screws, so that's not the longest one, it's in the middle. You should only have a couple of these, because all the other screw holes, they will utilize the 1cm or 10mm screws. Right now what we're going to proceed with, that is the priming handle. You have enough to make two priming handles, complete ones. So what I will do in this video is I will install it on both sides, but depending on your dominant hand, you can either choose left or right. It's all up to you. it doesn't impede with the functioning of the blaster. So what you'll see, you'll take two of the longer screws, one for each of the sets, and then a yellow ring or sleeve. We're going to push that through the top of the priming handle. And I'm using a screwdriver here just to speed up the process. And then we'll take a nut and put it on the outside end of the other sleeve part. Be mindful of your hands because the priming handle will spin around. Once that is done, don't over tighten it because it can damage the part. We're going to take the longer set screw and we're going to screw that in the middle because that's going to function as the bearing holder. And the reason why it's a set screw is that you can still adjust it if needed. We just want to make sure that it's flush with the bottom of the priming handle, because we want to make sure that the bearing will engage or interact with the aluminum sleeve. Now, we'll do the same again. Just make sure to mirror it. You can see me here thinking. Again, be mindful of your hands. And we'll take the other set screw. Then we'll take the two bearings and slide them over the set screw. Make sure they spin properly. And here I see it's a little bit too deep. Stick it out a little bit. Okay, what you will see here is that the priming handle is facing upwards. In the official documentation or photos, the priming handle is facing downwards. I'll leave it up to you which side you want to choose. And again, for this you will need the 10mm screws. Align it with the holes and just simply screw it in. Test it out. Yeah, seems to be working fine. And now double the other side. Again, you can choose to do this, or you can just simply choose one side depending on your dominant hand. It's nice and tight. Double check the priming function. And that's it for this part. And we're almost there. We only need to install the spring and the shoulder pad. If you haven't installed the O-ring yet on the pusher or the plunger, make sure it's the biggest O-ring in the bag of O-rings. As you can see, there's also quite some extra O-rings. Okay, what we're going to do is insert the pusher. Be mindful again to not squish the O-ring. We're going to take the spring and we're going to grab the spring holder. I'm going to try to push it in. What's very important, and what is not really in this video, is that you need to make sure that the catch mechanism that is attached to the trigger, that the back of it is aligned with the bottom hole of the aluminum outer shell. Hopefully later on you can see it more clearly. Guess not. So we're going to attach the shoulder pad. And then we have the catch protective shell. Give it a small whack to make sure that it aligns. And then we will use 10mm screws to screw it in, which will hold everything together. And once that is done, then your blaster is finished. That's the prime. Now as you can see, the prime, the seal is not perfect. However, it shoots well over 150 FPS. So from my own testing, it is between 175 and 200 FPS. Thank you for watching. In case you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and we will get back to you.